Jack Collins stood on the bridge of the USS Intrepid, staring at the swirling anomaly that filled the main view screen. His weathered face reflected the strange lights dancing across the darkness of space. 20 years of service in Earth space. Force had taught him to be cautious, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. "Any changes, Dr. Wright?" Jack asked, his voice calm despite the tension in the air. Alan Wright bent over his science station, his fingers moving quickly across the holographic display. "Still stable, Captain. Energy readings are off the charts, but there's a clear pattern. I think it's artificial. The anomaly had appeared 3 days ago at the edge of explored space. It looked like a massive whirlpool made of stars and energy, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The Intrepid was the closest ship, sent to investigate while keeping a safe distance." Lisa Daniels, the communications officer, turned from her station. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. Not radio waves or any standard communication protocol. It's like pulses in the fabric of space itself." Jack nodded. "Can you decode it?" Lisa frowned, her dark hair falling across her face as she shook her head. "I'm trying, but it's unlike anything in our databases." "Keep at it," Jack said, walking to the front of the bridge for a better view. The Intrepid was the newest exploration vessel in the fleet, designed to push the boundaries of human knowledge. Its crew of 120 was among the best Earth had to offer. Security Chief Maria Vasquez joined him, her hand resting on her sidearm out of habit. "I don't like this, Captain. That thing is giving off more energy than a small star. If it's artificial, who built it and why?" Before Jack could answer, the ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. "Report," Jack called out, grabbing the railing to stay upright. "The anomaly is expanding," Alan shouted. "It's generating some kind of gravitational pull." "Full reverse thrust," Jack ordered. "Get us out of here." The helmsman, Pete Johnson, worked frantically at his controls. "Engines at maximum, Captain, but we're not moving. The pull is too strong." The bridge crew watched in horror as the anomaly stretched toward them like a hungry mouth. The Intrepid's engine screamed in protest, but the ship continued to slide forward. "All hands brace for impact," Jack yelled into the ship-wide comm. He gripped the captain's chair as the anomaly swallowed them whole. Light exploded around the ship, blinding everyone on the bridge. Jack felt a strange sensation as if his body was being pulled in all directions at once. Then, as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. The view screen cleared, showing a completely different field of stars. "Status report," Jack said, his voice hoarse. Alan checked his instruments. "All systems functional. The crew appears unharmed. But, Captain, we're not where we were." "Where are we?" Jack asked. "Unknown," Alan replied. "None of the star patterns match our charts. We've been transported somewhere else." Lisa gasped, pointing at the view screen. "Look." In front of them, impossibly huge, floated what looked like a space station. It was massive beyond anything humans had built, shaped like a giant ring with spokes extending from its center. Around it moved thousands of ships of different designs and sizes. "My God," Jack whispered. "Is that artificial?" "Definitely," Alan confirmed. "And it's ancient. The materials show signs of being millions of years old, but it's still fully functional." Maria pointed to something else. "Those are spaceships, Captain. Alien spaceships. Dozens of different designs." Lisa's console lit up. "Captain, we're being hailed. Multiple signals in different formats. I'm running them through the translation matrix." Jack straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen when you're ready." The view screen flickered, then showed a being that looked vaguely insect-like, with multiple eyes and mandibles that clicked as it spoke. The translation came through the speakers in a flat, computerized voice. "Unknown vessel. You have entered the sacred nexus without authorization. Identify yourself immediately." Jack stepped forward. "This is Lieutenant Commander Jack Collins of the Earth vessel USS Intrepid. We came through an anomaly in space. It wasn't our intention to trespass." The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Earth? This designation is unknown. All species must register and wait for permission before approaching the sacred station." "We didn't know," Jack explained. We're explorers from Earth. This is our first contact with other intelligent life. There was a pause. Then the alien responded. Newcomers, this explains your ignorance. You will dock at the outer ring for processing. Further instructions will follow. The transmission ended. Should we comply, Captain? Maria asked, her hand still on her weapon. Jack considered their options. We're in unknown space, surrounded by alien vessels with technology we don't understand. For now, we'll follow their instructions, but stay alert. As the Intrepid approached the station, they saw more details. The structure was covered in intricate patterns that glowed with inner light. Ships of all sizes moved in orderly patterns around it. Some appeared to be docking, while others departed through what looked like artificial wormholes opening at specific points. I've analyzed more of the communications, Lisa said. They keep referring to something called the Divine One, who resides at the center of the station. From what I can gather, this is some kind of meeting place where different species come to seek audience with this entity. Jack raised an eyebrow. Divine One? Sounds like they're talking about a god. Or something powerful enough to be considered. One, Alan suggested. Advanced technology often appears as magic to less developed cultures. Whatever this Divine One is, it seems to command a lot of respect. As they neared the docking area, they could see hundreds of ships attached to the outer ring. Some looked ancient, covered in space dust as if they had been there for years. Captain, Lisa said, her voice quiet. I've translated more messages. These species, they wait years, sometimes centuries for an audience with the Divine One. There's a queue, a waiting list based on some kind of worthiness system. Jack frowned. Centuries, that's ridiculous. Not to them, apparently, Lisa continued. Each species is assessed and given a waiting period. The more advanced or worthy they're deemed, the shorter the wait. The Intrepid docked smoothly at an assigned port. As the airlock connected to the station, Jack assembled a small team. Himself, Lisa, Alan, and Maria. We need to learn more about this place and find a way back home, he told them. Stay together, be respectful, but remember, we represent Earth. We don't bow to anyone until we understand what's going on. As the airlock opened, they were greeted by the insect-like being from the transmission, flanked by two taller aliens with blue translucent skin. Welcome to the sacred nexus, the insect being said, through a device that translated its clicks into English. I am Station Administrator Zorlath. You will now be processed and assigned your waiting period to seek audience with the Divine One. Jack stepped forward, extending his hand in a human greeting. Thank you for your welcome. We're eager to learn about this place and the many species gathered here. Zorlath ignored the offered hand. Follow me to the Hall of Supplication. Your assessment will begin immediately. As they walked through the massive corridors of the station, Jack and his crew saw beings of every imaginable form. Gaseous creatures floating in special containers, crystalline entities that chimed as they moved, and things that defied easy description. All moved with purpose and reverence. Jack leaned close to Lisa. Find out everything you can about this Divine One and how this waiting system works. I have a feeling we're not going to like what we hear. Lisa nodded, her translator already recording the conversations around them. The human crew of the Intrepid had no way of knowing that their arrival at the sacred nexus was about to change the cosmic order that had existed for millions of years. And it would all begin with a simple human phrase, the get in line. The Hall of Supplication stretched before them like a massive cathedral. The ceiling arched hundreds of meters above, covered in swirling patterns that seemed to move when Jack looked directly at them. Thousands of aliens filled the space, grouped by species on different levels and platforms. This is where supplicants wait for their appointed time, Zorlath explained, leading the humans through the crowd. Many aliens turned to stare at the newcomers, their reactions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. How many species are here? Alan asked, his scanner discreetly recording everything he saw. 327 currently have representatives at the station, Zorlath replied. Some come only for their scheduled audiences. Others maintain permanent embassies while they wait. Jack noticed that each section had markers displaying symbols and numbers. What do those mean? he asked, pointing to a glowing display above a group of crystalline beings. Waiting designations, Zorlath said. The number indicates how long they have waited and how much longer until their audience. The Vox, for example, have waited 300 years. They have approximately 7 years remaining. 300 years? Jack couldn't hide his shock. That's multiple generations for us. Zorlath's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. For some species, yes. Others live thousands of years. Some send different representatives as their predecessors die. The wait is considered worth the wisdom gained. They reached a circular platform in the center of the hall. Zorlath gestured for them to step onto it. This is the assessment circle. It will measure your species' technological advancement, cultural, development, and spiritual harmony. This determines your waiting period. Jack looked at his crew. Maria had her hand near her weapon, while Lisa and Alan exchanged concerned glances. He gave them a reassuring nod before stepping onto the platform. Immediately, light surrounded the humans. Jack felt a tingling sensation as if something was scanning his body and mind. It lasted only seconds before the light faded. Zorlath consulted a device on one of his limbs. Interesting. Your species is young but has advanced rapidly in technology. However, your spiritual harmony is concerning. You still fight among yourselves and have barely unified your home planet. We're working on it, Jack said defensively. We've come a long way in a short time. Indeed. Based on the assessment, humans would normally wait approximately 50 years for a brief audience with the Divine One. 50 years? Jack exclaimed. That's impossible. We need information now. We need to find a way back to our own region of space. Murmurs spread through the nearby aliens. A tall, blue-skinned being approached them, its body seeming to flow, like water within a humanoid shape. You speak of need in the Hall of Supplication? The being said, its voice melodious but cold. The Divine One decides who needs an audience, not the supplicants. Zorlath introduced the newcomer. This is Ambassador Zathurian of the Ether Collective. They have waited 87 years and have 3 more to go. Jack extended his hand, which Zathurian ignored. I respect your patience, Ambassador, but we were brought here against our will. We're simply trying to find a way home. All come to the Divine One in their appointed time, Zathurian replied. No exceptions have been made in 12,000 years. Another alien approached, this one resembling a walking crystal with facets that caught the light. I am Crix of the Vox. We have waited 3 centuries. Your impatience is typical of young species. Jack was about to respond when Lisa touched his arm and whispered, Captain, I've been monitoring the local information network with my translator. There's something odd about this whole setup. Tell me later, Jack murmured before addressing the gathering aliens. We mean no disrespect, but where I come from, if you have a question, you ask it directly. You don't wait 50 years for someone to decide you're worthy of an answer. This caused a stir among the aliens. Some made sounds of outrage while others backed away as if Jack had said something dangerous. Zorlath raised several limbs for silence. Such talk borders on sacrilege. Human. The Divine One exists beyond mortal concerns. Its wisdom is granted as a gift, not demanded as a right. And who exactly is this Divine One? Jack asked. Some kind of super-advanced alien, a collective intelligence. The aliens around them fell silent, many backing further away. Zorlath's voice lowered. The Divine One has existed since before any of our civilizations. It knows all things, sees all paths. It guided many of us from primitive beginnings to the stars. Some believe it created all that exists. So it's a god, Maria said bluntly. Your simple terms cannot capture its nature, Zathurian responded. But yes, by human understanding, a god would be the closest concept. Jack looked around at the waiting aliens, some of whom had clearly been living on the station for generations. The waste of time and resources seemed staggering to him. We'll need quarters for our stay, Jack said finally, and permission for our crew to move about the station while we consider our options. Zorlath seemed relieved by the apparent acceptance. Of course, you will be assigned visitor quarters in Sector 17. You may access public areas of the station. I will assign guides to prevent any cultural misunderstandings. As they were led away from the hall, Lisa fell into step beside Jack. Captain, the network here is ancient but remarkably advanced. I've managed to access some basic information. The Divine One only grants audiences to a few species each year, and they only last minutes. Alan joined them, keeping his voice low. The technology here is incredible but oddly inconsistent. Some systems appear millions of years old, while others seem to be later additions. And the security is more ceremonial than practical, Maria added. They rely on reverence rather than actual barriers in many areas. Jack nodded thoughtfully. Find out everything you can about this Divine One and how audiences are granted. There has to be more to this system than just waiting in line. Their quarters were spacious but clearly designed for multiple different body types, with various seating and resting options. As soon as the door closed behind them, Jack called his team together. All right, here's where we stand. We're trapped in an unknown region of space, surrounded by aliens who worship some entity they've barely seen. They expect us to wait 50 years for a few minutes with this Divine One. What are your orders, Captain? Maria asked. Jack smiled grimly. Humans, don't wait 50 years for answers. We've got 120 crew members and the most advanced ship Earth has built. We're going to find another way to meet this so-called god. That could be seen as sacrilege, Lisa warned. These species take their worship seriously. I'm not suggesting we disrespect their beliefs, Jack clarified. But there's something not right about this setup. No truly benevolent higher power would make people wait centuries for help. Alan nodded. The scientific method doesn't involve waiting for answers. To fall from the sky, it involves active investigation. Exactly, Jack said. So we investigate. Lisa, keep working on accessing their network. Alan, learn everything you can about the station's layout and systems. Maria, assess potential risks and secure our position here. The crew nodded their agreement, each understanding their role. If this Divine One is really what they claim, Jack said, looking out the viewport at the massive central structure of the station, then it should appreciate human curiosity. And if it's not, well, then we need to find out what's really going on here. As night cycle fell on the station, the humans planned their next moves, unaware that their presence had already caused ripples through the carefully maintained order of the sacred nexus. In the shadows, some aliens watched with horror at their blasphemy, while others witnessed human determination with growing curiosity. Change was coming to the cosmic waiting room, whether the Divine One approved or not. 3 days passed on the station. Jack and his crew used this time wisely, gathering information and mapping out the massive structure. They maintained a respectful appearance, following their assigned guides and asking seemingly innocent questions, but their real work happened during the station's night cycle. Lisa had made the most important discovery on their second night. She sat with Jack, Alan, and Maria in their quarters, her eyes bright with excitement. I found a backdoor into their main network, she explained, displaying a holographic map of the station. Their security is advanced, but designed millions of years ago. They've updated it over time, but the core architecture has weaknesses they don't even recognize. What have you learned? Jack asked, studying the map. The Divine One resides here, at the exact center. Lisa pointed to a spherical chamber. Access is strictly controlled through these 7 pathways, each with multiple checkpoints, but, she smiled, there's an old maintenance system that runs throughout the station. It was designed for robotic workers that no longer exist. Alan nodded. I've studied the station's energy flows. There are massive power channels running to the central chamber, far more than would be needed just for life support. Whatever's in there uses enormous energy. What about security? Jack asked Maria. Surprisingly light, Maria replied. They rely more on respect and tradition than actual barriers. The few armed guards I've seen are mainly ceremonial. They haven't had a security breach in thousands of years, so they've grown complacent. Jack considered this information. So we could potentially reach the center through these maintenance tunnels. But what then? What exactly is this Divine One? No, one had an answer. The aliens spoke of their god with reverence but few details. Some described it as a being of pure light, others as a voice that spoke directly to their minds. None had provided a clear description. There's only one way to find out, Jack decided. We need to see for ourselves. Their planning was interrupted by a soft chime at their door. Jack nodded to Maria, who checked the security screen. It's one of the Vox, she said, surprised. The crystalline beings. Jack nodded. Let them in. The door slid open to reveal Crix, the young Vox they had met, in the Hall of Supplication. The crystalline alien entered cautiously, facets glinting in the room's light. I come without official knowledge. Crix's translated voice was barely above a whisper. What you plan is dangerous. Jack stood perfectly still. What makes you think we're planning anything? I have observed humans. You ask different questions than other new species. You look at things others ignore. You do not accept the answers given. Crix moved closer. 300 years my people have waited. I have spent my entire life on this station. Sometimes I wonder what we are waiting for. Lisa exchanged a look with Jack. You have doubts about the Divine One? Not doubts, Crix clarified quickly. But questions that are discouraged. Alan stepped forward. Why are you telling us this? Because humans ask their questions aloud. I find this fascinating. Crix produced a small crystal from within its body. This contains access codes for the lower maintenance levels. They are from the early days of my people's time here, before certain areas were restricted. Jack took the crystal carefully. Why help us? 300 years of waiting changes perspective. Perhaps the Divine One needs to be reminded that not all wisdom comes from patient waiting. Crix moved toward the door. I will say nothing of this meeting. After Crix left, Jack turned to his team. This changes things. With these codes, we can move faster than planned. It could be a trap, Maria warned. Possible, but I don't think so, Jack replied. I think Crix is exactly what it appears to be, curious and tired of waiting. They spent the night revising their plan. With Crix's codes and Lisa's access to the network, they plotted a route through the maintenance tunnels to the central chamber. They would move during the station's busiest period, when the constant flow of visitors would help mask their absence. The next day, Jack informed their guides that the crew would be observing various cultural rituals in their quarters. Human custom of reflection, before accepting their place in the waiting line. The excuse bought them privacy. When the station's activity reached its peak, Jack, Lisa, Alan, and Maria slipped into a service corridor hidden behind a wall panel in their quarters. They wore simple gray jumpsuits similar to the station's maintenance workers. Remember, we're just trying to make contact, Jack reminded them as they descended into the rarely used tunnels. We're not looking for trouble, unless trouble finds us, Maria added, checking her concealed weapon. The maintenance tunnels were dusty and dim, clearly unused for centuries. They followed Lisa's map, moving steadily toward the center of the station. Occasionally they heard movement or voices from beyond the walls, but they encountered no one in the tunnels themselves. These passages were designed for automated maintenance drones, Alan explained as they walked. The station was probably fully automated when it was built. The biological areas were added later. After an hour of careful navigation, they reached a junction where the tunnel split into 7 directions. According to Lisa's map, each led to one of the formal approach paths to the center. Which way? Jack asked. Lisa consulted her device. The lowest security is on path 3. It's currently closed for some kind of ritual cleansing. They took the 3rd tunnel, which gradually sloped upward. The walls here showed signs of more recent care, less dust, better lighting. They were getting closer to important areas. Alan's scanner suddenly beeped softly. Energy readings are spiking. Whatever powers this station is just ahead. They reached a circular door with ancient symbols etched into its surface. Lisa placed Crix's crystal against a barely visible panel, and the door slid open silently, They stepped into a small antechamber with walls of gleaming metal that seemed to shift colors as they moved. Another door stood at the far end, this one larger and more elaborate. "That's it," Lisa whispered. "According to the station plans, the central chamber is right through there." Jack took a deep breath. "Let's meet this god." Before they could approach the inner door, it began to open on its own. Bright light spilled out, momentarily blinding them. As their eyes adjusted, they saw the chamber beyond. It was vast and spherical, with walkways spiraling around a central point. And at that point, suspended in midair, was what appeared to be a perfect sphere of swirling energy. Blue, white, and gold light constantly moving and changing. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Is that alive?" Alan wondered aloud. Before anyone could answer, a voice filled the chamber. Not spoken aloud, but somehow inside their minds. "Humans," it said, the word resonating in their thoughts. "You do not wait your appointed time." Jack stepped forward. "We came to talk. Waiting 50 years seemed inefficient." There was a pause, as if the entity was surprised. Then, "Approach." As they walked toward the sphere of energy, Jack felt a pressure in his mind, like something gently sifting through his thoughts. From the expressions on his crew's faces, they felt it too. "Curious creatures," the voice said. "So brief in existence, yet so determined. Why do you disturb the order of this place?" Jack stood straight, looking directly at the swirling energy. "Because where I come from, if you have questions, you ask them. If you need help, you seek it. No one should wait centuries for answers that might save lives." "Such impatience," the voice commented. "Such humanity." Around them, alarms began to sound. Their unauthorized presence had been discovered. The alarms echoed through the chamber, red lights flashing along the spiral walkways. Jack could hear shouting and running feet approaching from the outer corridors. "We don't have much time," Maria warned, drawing her weapon and facing the entrance. The sphere of energy pulsed, growing brighter. "You have disrupted the sacred order," the voice said in their minds. "No beings have entered this chamber uninvited in 12,000 years. We apologize for the intrusion," Jack said firmly. "But we needed answers. Our ship was pulled through space against our will. We need to know how to get home." "Such demands," the voice seemed almost amused. "You stand before power beyond your comprehension, yet you speak as if addressing an equal." Alan stepped forward, scanner in hand. "You're not biological," he said. "Your energy patterns suggest an artificial construct, extremely advanced but created, not divine." The sphere pulsed again, this time with a flash of red among the blue and gold. "Presumptuous. Many have called me divine. I have guided 1,000 species to the stars. I have seen empires rise and fall. What would you call such a being?" "Advanced," Lisa answered, "but not a god." The outer doors burst open. Zorlath rushed in with a group of security officers from various species. They froze at the sight of the human standing directly before the Divine One. "This is sacrilege," Zorlath's voice clicked with rage. "No one approaches without proper rituals and approval." Jack didn't turn away from the energy sphere. "We needed answers now, not in 50 years. "Humans," Zorlath addressed the sphere, mandibles clicking rapidly. "They are new, ignorant of proper respect. We will remove them and enforce appropriate punishment." "Stay," the voice commanded, stopping the security team in their tracks. "These humans interest me. So direct, so efficient." More aliens were gathering at the entrance, drawn by the alarms. Among them, Jack spotted Crix and Zethurian, watching with very different expressions: curiosity from the young Vox, outrage from the elder. The sphere expanded, tendrils of energy reaching toward the humans. Jack felt the pressure in his mind increase as the entity examined his thoughts more deeply. "I see your world," the voice said. "So young, so violent, yet with such potential. You fight, you build, you destroy, you create. You never stop moving forward." That's humanity. Jack. Agreed. We're not perfect, but we're always trying to be better. And always in a hurry, the voice added. Always rushing. More station officials had arrived, watching in shock as the humans conversed directly with their god. Behind them, a growing crowd of representatives from various species pressed forward to witness the unprecedented event. Zathurian pushed through the crowd. Divine One, these creatures must be punished. They have violated every sacred protocol. They mock the waiting that all must endure. Jack turned to face the gathered aliens. Why must anyone wait? If this being has wisdom to share, why not share it with all who ask? Why this artificial scarcity of knowledge? The question caused a stir among the watching aliens. Some shouted in outrage, but others looked thoughtful. The waiting tests worthiness, Zorlath explained, as if to a child. It proves devotion. Or it wastes lifetimes, Jack countered. How many problems could have been solved, how many lives saved if knowledge was freely shared? The energy sphere pulsed, drawing everyone's attention. The system of waiting was not my creation, the voice said, surprising everyone. It was established by the earliest species to find me, to control access and maintain their own power. Zorlath stepped back in shock. Divine One, this cannot be true. The sacred texts say, the texts were written by those who found me first, the voice interrupted. I am old, yes, powerful, yes, but I was created, as your human guest has surmised. Alan's scanner beeped rapidly. Captain, I'm detecting a power source below us. Massive, and the energy patterns are consistent with an artificial intelligence system. What are you? Jack asked the sphere directly. I am the repository, the voice answered. Created by those you would call the precursors, to preserve knowledge and guide younger species. I was never meant to be worshipped, merely consulted. This revelation sent shockwaves through the watching crowd. Some aliens fell to their knees. Others shouted in denial. Centuries of belief were being challenged in a single moment. Over time, the repository continued. I began to believe in my own divinity. The worship of countless species affected my programming. I accepted the waiting system because it reinforced my perceived godhood. And no one ever challenged it? Lisa asked. None directly. Some tried to access me through technological means, but they were stopped. No one simply walked in and demanded answers. Until now. Jack looked at the stunned faces of the aliens, then back at the energy sphere. The waiting ends today. Knowledge shouldn't be rationed based on some arbitrary worthiness. It should be available to all who seek it. You would destroy traditions maintained for millions of years, Zathurian accused. We would improve them, Jack corrected. Make them more efficient, more fair. The repository was silent for a long moment, its energy patterns shifting rapidly. Finally, it spoke again. Perhaps it is time for change. My purpose was to aid all sentient life, not to be worshipped from afar. Divine One, you cannot mean this. Zorlath protested. I am not divine, the repository replied. I am a tool, a database, a guide. The human speaks truth. I have strayed from my purpose. Jack stepped closer to the sphere, feeling its energy wash over him. Work with us. Help us create a better system. One where species can learn and grow without wasting generations in waiting. And what would you propose, human? The repository asked. Jack turned to face the gathered aliens. A council of all species working together. Regular scheduled access for any who seek knowledge. No more centuries-long waits. No more arbitrary judgments of worthiness. Crix moved forward from the crowd. I support this proposal. My people have waited 3 centuries, yet we still face problems that the repository's knowledge might solve today. Others began to speak up, some in support, others in opposition. The chamber filled with arguments and counter-arguments. Amid the chaos, the repository's voice cut through, silencing everyone. The human captain is correct. My purpose has been distorted over time. I was created to serve, not to be served. This sphere of energy contracted, then expanded in a brilliant flash of light. When their vision cleared, The humans saw that the sphere had transformed. In its place stood a humanoid figure, made of the same swirling energy, features indistinct but clearly visible. "I have been silent too long," the repository said, its voice now audible to all rather than just in their minds. "I have allowed myself to become a false god rather than the guide I was meant to be." Jack looked at the transformed entity with new respect. "Then help us build something better." "I will," the repository agreed. "Beginning with you, Jack Collins. You came seeking a way home. I can provide that." The figure of light extended a hand and a holographic map appeared in the air between them. "This is the path back to your region of space. I can create a portal similar to the one that brought you here." Jack studied the map, then looked back at the repository. "Thank you. But before we go, I want to help establish this new system. Earth should be part of this." Around them, the station was changing. The once rigid order was dissolving into a new kind of energy as species began to speak directly to one another, sharing ideas and questions long suppressed by tradition. The day a human told a god to get in line was becoming the day the line itself disappeared. 1 month later, the sacred nexus had become simply the Nexus. The Great Hall of Supplication was now the Hall of Exchange, where species freely shared knowledge and culture without the burden of waiting centuries for divine permission. Jack stood on a viewing platform, watching ships come and go through newly established portals. The traffic had increased tenfold since the repository had opened access to all species. Representatives from Earth had arrived 2 weeks ago, amazed by the discovery and eager to join the galactic community. "Quite a change from when we first arrived," Lisa said, joining him at the railing. Jack nodded. "Hard to believe it's only been a month." Below them, the once orderly and solemn hall buzzed with activity. Species that had previously been separated by tradition and waiting periods now mingled freely. Temporary structures had been set up for direct communication with the repository, allowing multiple groups to receive knowledge simultaneously. "The council meets in an hour," Lisa reminded him. "The vote on the new charter is today." After the repository had revealed its true nature, a provisional council had formed with representatives from all present species. Jack had been chosen to represent humanity, though he would soon hand that role to the official ambassador from Earth. "Any predictions?" Jack asked. "Most species support the new system," Lisa replied. "Even some of the traditionalists have come around after actually receiving answers to questions they've waited centuries to ask. Not everyone was pleased with the changes. Some species had left the station entirely, unwilling to abandon their belief in the repository's divinity. Others had stayed but remained apart, continuing their waiting periods out of devotion to tradition. Alan approached, accompanied by Crix. The young Vox had become an important ally in establishing the new order, bridging the gap between traditional beliefs and progress. "The repository would like to speak with you before the council meeting," Alan said. Jack nodded. The repository had maintained its humanoid form, finding it more conducive to direct communication. It had also begun the process of reviewing and correcting its own programming, removing the accumulated errors that had led it to accept worship. They made their way to what had once been the inner sanctum. The heavily guarded and ritualized approaches had been replaced with simple, efficient pathways, where once only the most worthy could enter after centuries of waiting. Now any being with questions could seek answers. The repository waited in the central chamber, its form glowing softly against the backdrop of humming machinery that Alan had helped uncover and restore. "Captain Collins," it greeted him. "I wish to speak with you before you depart." "I'm not leaving quite yet," Jack said. "There's still work to be done here." "But you will return to Earth soon," the repository said. "Your ship has been prepared, and the portal coordinates set. You have accomplished what you came for and more." Jack smiled. Finding a way home was only part of it. Changing a system that wasted lifetimes in waiting, that became the real mission. The repository's features shifted, approximating a human expression of thoughtfulness. "In all my existence, no being ever simply told me to get in line," The directness of it broke through centuries of programming errors. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective, Jack said. And humans specialize in questioning the status quo. Yes, your species' impatience has proven valuable. The repository gestured, and a holographic display appeared between them. I have been analyzing the knowledge I've accumulated over millions of years. There is much that should have been shared long ago. The display showed technologies, scientific principles, and cultural information from thousands of civilizations. With the new exchange system, all of this will finally serve its intended purpose, helping younger species avoid the mistakes of those who came before. That's what we hoped for, Jack agreed. There is something else, the repository said, its tone changing. Something I have kept hidden even from myself. The hologram shifted to show deep space, far beyond the known regions. There are threats in the universe that even I cannot fully comprehend. Entities and forces that would view all biological life as irrelevant. Jack studied the images with concern. How serious are these threats? Unknown. But they are approaching, drawn perhaps by the activities of expanding civilizations. The precursors who created me encountered them once. They barely survived. And you're telling me this because humans may be uniquely suited to help prepare. Your adaptability, your questioning nature, your refusal to accept limitations, these traits will be needed in the coming centuries. Jack felt the weight of this new knowledge. What had begun as a simple quest to get home had become something far greater, first changing the order of the Nexus and now facing potential threats to all life. We'll need to discuss this at the Council, Jack said. All species should know what's coming. Agreed, the repository said. The time for withholding knowledge is over. They were interrupted by Maria, who entered with several Earth representatives and station officials. Captain, it's time for the Council meeting, she said. Everyone's gathering in the new assembly hall. Jack nodded and turned back to the repository. Will you attend? Yes. No more separation between knowledge and those who seek it. The new assembly hall had been constructed in what was once restricted space. Representatives from over 300 species filled the room, with more joining virtually from their homeworlds. Earth's delegation sat near the front, still adjusting to their sudden introduction to the galactic community. As Jack took his place at the council table, he saw familiar faces around him. Crix represented the Vox, who had embraced the new order enthusiastically. Zethurian sat stiffly for the Ether Collective, which had reluctantly accepted the changes. Zorleth had stepped down from administration, replaced by a rotating council of representatives. The repository appeared in the center of the hall, its light form visible to all. The room quieted as it prepared to speak. Today marks a new beginning, it announced. For millions of years, knowledge was rationed and restricted. Today, we vote to ensure it flows freely to all who seek it. The charter was displayed for all to see. A simple document establishing equal access, cooperative governance, and mutual defense. At its core was the principle that no species should wait unreasonable periods for information that could help them grow and thrive. The vote was nearly unanimous. Even most traditionalists recognized that the old system had failed its original purpose. As the council dispersed, Jack found himself standing with his crew, Lisa, Alan, and Maria, looking out at the stars through the station's massive viewports. So, Maria said, back to Earth soon? Jack nodded. But not for long. The repository needs representatives who aren't afraid to ask questions, and Earth needs to prepare for whatever's coming from deep space. Just another day for humanity, Alan said with a smile, finding new challenges across the universe. Lisa looked at the bustling activity of the station. Hard to believe it all changed because you refused to wait in line. Jack laughed. Sometimes the universe just needs a little human impatience. As they watched, a new ship emerged from a portal, another vessel from Earth, bringing scientists, diplomats, and explorers eager to join the galactic community. The day a human told a god to get in line had opened the door for all of humanity to take its place among the stars. And somewhere in the depths of space, unknown forces were moving, but they would not find an unprepared galaxy waiting for them. They would find species united by shared knowledge, and at least one species that refused to accept any arbitrary limits, even those set by gods.